It's a true story of how when my father passed, and the good and the bad memory that I have of it. So here we go. Basically, I'm 17. It's like 2001, and my little brother Mike, my sister was living with my mother in a different state, and I was with my father in a different state. My brother went to visit my sister and my mother for the weekend, and my dad called it. I'm a junior. My dad's name was Glenn, and he called it, which doesn't even make sense, but he told my mother that he was giving him Glenn's rehab, which when I finish the story, you're not even understand why it was even called that, but it's pretty funny. So anyway, me and my dad, I go over there. He has like a little apartment in a little town in a different state, and so we're hanging out, and I'm just gonna be blunt with it. We're getting high, shooting cocaine all night long. My dad had caught Lyme's disease. He got bit by a deer tick. He had won a trip to Lake Ontario. He loved to fish, and yeah, he got bit by a deer tick and caught Lyme's disease, which deteriorated his back, and then they ended up putting him on. My dad was an alcoholic my whole life. He did a share of drugs in his earlier years, but now keep in mind, my dad at this time is basically my age. He's like 41 when he passed, so yeah, like 2 years away from me now. So anyway, he was prescribed fentanyl patches, Oxycontin, 40 milligrams, 20 milligrams, a whole variety of narcotics. And within that little bit of time that he lived in that little town, he had started to shoot heroin and cocaine, which never, ever, ever had he done. I was getting high with my father. And so yeah, we're shooting cocaine, getting high all night. And then one of his friends told me that the fentanyl patches were a 72-hour time release patch, which he told me that once you had it on your body for 72 hours, the little bit of gel that's left in there, you could take a razor blade, scrape it out and eat it, and that it would get you high. But he told me never, ever, ever take a new one. But of course, him telling me never, ever, ever take a new one, I took a new one, cut it open, ate it, and it I was annihilated. And my dad came out from his little stupor high and realized how fucked up I was, and asked me what I did. Now, me being an idiot, honestly, so he went through his patches and seen that there was a whole one missing, put two and two together and realized I confessed that I ate it. And now keep in mind, my father has how much Oxycontin through his system? Two, which he's supposed to have 100 milligram fentanyl patch on, 2 of them on each of his legs, and now he decides that he's gonna open it and eat one too, because that's what I did. So he does that, and I could, within minutes, I could see that it was hitting him. And now, this was the night of my sister's prom. So anyway, I'm laying around, and my dad's like getting ready, and my dad called me Duke. That was his nickname for me. He's like, Duke, get up, man, get up, like, do something, like, why are you being so late? Started going in on me. Like, I got an attitude with him, and he's like, I gotta go out, I gotta go call your sister. He didn't have a cell phone then, and we didn't have a house phone. He went to go to my friend, his friend's house to use their phone. So anyway, he's like, I gotta go call your sister to, we're gonna have a good time at the prom, So basically, he's getting ready to do that, and right before he leaves, and this is honestly the last memory I ever had of my father, which, like I said, is good and bad. But he grabs me, he pulls me up off the ground, and pulls me in and hugs me, and like a big ass hug. But it's not like my parents did that. They told me they loved me all the time. Like that, it's nothing out of the ordinary. But just how it was, how he hugged me and told me how proud he was of me, and that no matter what I did, he would always be proud of me, and he always loved me, which was a little weird just because of just out of nowhere. And he proceeded to leave, and that would be the last time I see my father alive. I ended up going, as time passed, I started getting worried. I went to his friend's house. I seen him on a chair, and he was like unconscious, and I said to his friend, I said, bro, like, is he okay? And he's like, dude, he was just up, he was just talking, he's fine, but like I had like this gut feeling that like something was very wrong. So his friend's just like, he'll be home in the morning, So I remember walking out and standing on the porch and just being like, something's wrong. I feel like I'm doing the wrong thing, but he told me to get out. I got out. I went back to the apartment, which I ended up locking myself out of, so I couldn't get into our apartment. Luckily, there was a vacant apartment next door that I went in, and then the next thing I remember is like waking up like 10, 11 the next day and hearing ambulances, and for some reason I just knew then that since my dad hadn't come back, like that was for him, and it was, and the coroner's office and medical examiner came and made me feel like a real piece of shit. You know, they came into the room talking about, oh, all these drugs, da da da. You guys got a drug bin in here, which everything was legally prescribed to them. But one of the worst points of this whole thing is now, keep in mind, I didn't get into this, but my grandmother, who I lived with, was like a second mom to me. This was her oldest son. Her youngest son had died at 31 in 1994 from melanoma cancer. So she only had my dad and me, Mikey, and my sister left, which were like she looked at us as her kids. So they wouldn't even call my grandmother, like, to tell her. Like, I was in tears. I didn't want to tell her. So I call her, and she's just like, she didn't believe it. She's like, no, what hospital is he at? Because I'll never forget, it was pouring rain. I'm sitting there with a garbage bag of my stuff, waiting for her to come. She comes, and then they take her to, I guess, like the medical examiners or whatever. And now this right here is like probably one of the worst moments of my life, when she comes back to the car, because they said, look what your son is, and showed her his track marks and all that stuff, which she didn't have to see. There was no need for her to see that. They just, I don't know what was wrong with them, the evil people they were, made her, like, the last time she would see her son, like, pretty much see him as a drug addict, you know what I mean? Which that she never thought of him as that. You know, he was an alcoholic. But I just know that is like one of the worst things I could ever think of when she came out and said that. And she's like, Glenn, everybody's gonna think of him as dying as a heart attack. There will be no that your father was a drug addict. Your father was a good man. We both know that, and that's how he's gonna be remembered. So it was not said as an overdose. It was heart failure, which, you know, how my dad's health was, it wasn't like anybody. It was something out of the ordinary. So yeah, that pretty much is like how I ended up with my dad passing and haven't been able to really grieve it yet. But this is what comes with life as a drug addict, and this is really what not to do in life.